Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. It's the Wake Up America show. Happy Monday. Glad and thankful to have you here. How's everybody feeling today? Studio audience. This is a big shoe closet. Thankful to have you joining us here live. Sorry I'm late for a very important date. They're having an inauguration over at the Capitol today. I'm trying to stay away. So we're just going to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous internets because I live in rural Missouri. Jefferson City, the capital of Missouri, the heart of the United States. Welcome to my misery. It's the Wake Up America show. Everybody feeling good? Good. If you are, click that like button. Love to have you come back and join us every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. The Wake Up America show is a 5-day-a-week show. Yeah, a little late sometimes, but... Caleb Vanderfeltz, what's up? Kim McCurry, CEO Day. Quest Fanning, will run riot. The Rumblebot in the chat even. Hello, little artificial intelligence. Jose MMA, Robbie Theriman. Kermode Bear, hunting for a little fishy. Cecilia. Southcott. Corey and Callie, are you okay? Corey, can you hear me? Do you live in Los Angeles? God, I hope not. Joni Rankin and Brad Beckman. Barney Styles as well. Man, the whole crew. All 92. How's everybody doing? Down. Wake up, you sexy bitch.
Wake up, you sexy bitch. It's time to sin.
Mark Zuckerberg is going to teach us all how to be a man. Wait, shut up. What are you... Hold on. Why are you laughing? He's totally not a reptilian anymore. Remember all the things that he's done to us over the years? Suppressed our political views, destroyed businesses, websites, things. How many times was I officially suppressed on Facebook when I was literally running for president of the United States and for the United States Senate? But, it's totally fine. No, it's fine. Forgiveness, to err is human, to forgive is divine, right? Mark Zuckerberg is, not only is he going to teach us about what it means to be a man, and are we going to sit down and listen because he has money.
Bless me with something.
Oh, gosh. Oh, well, yes, I guess we'll let you into our group. Money buys access to everything, including power, especially on the left and the right, where the politics don't really matter. It's just about the money, the fame, the celebrity, and the clicks. Good to have you guys here. Corey and Callie giving us a little chat, as well as Dad Bod Baboon. We're going to talk this morning, obviously, about Mark Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan's podcast. I think I have a few clips of Mel Gibson. Everybody, do people still like Mel, even though he said his wife might be raped by a pack of N-words, and he hopes that she does. Did he say that he hopes she gets raped by a pack of N-words, or he said that he wouldn't feel sorry for? Excuse me, I want to make sure I get that right. I don't want to get sued by Mel Gibson. But hopefully he is also reformed as well, and he is by the power of Jesus Christ, he is saved and redeemed, and therefore he is now the moral arbiter for all of us. Yes, we're putting people, of course, in charge as long as they have the money to buy the access to power or to buy the clicks. Big discussions online about social media platforms and the relative amount of influence that many of these big influencers online actually have. When you see someone coming out of nowhere and then 6 weeks later they have 1 million followers, is it that they really have something interesting to offer, or are many of these people the political equivalent of Hawk Tuah girl, right? You know what they'll say about old AP? They'll say, "Oh, AP, you don't have 1 million fans. You only have like 100,000 followers over on X." Yeah, but they're all real people. Yeah. Oh, there's only 111 people live on your stream. Yeah, you're all human beings. Yeah, you know how I know you're human beings? Because you'll click the like button, not like a robot. You'll click it like a person, like a damn freedom American. What's up, Whitey White? Corey and Callie says, Zuckerberg looks a little bit like Data from Star Trek sometimes. Yes. So I'm going to play the Joe Rogan clips, the interviews of Mark Zuckerberg. And if I have time, we'll get to Mel Gibson. We're going to speak to We're going to speak to John Miltimore this morning at 8 a.m. Central Time. Are you guys excited to hear from him? From the American Institute of Economic Research, we're going to hear from John Miltimore this morning about a piece that he wrote. He says, don't blame State Farm for the insurance problems in California or climate change, because if you haven't noticed, California politicians and those who might actually bear some of the burden of blame for the disaster are now pointing fingers at everything but themselves. And of course, the biggest culprit is climate change. Yes, climate change. It's very convenient, isn't it, that whenever something like this happens and politicians might have to suffer the consequences of their poor planning, that climate change is to blame, which is, of course, fascinating because think about this, right? Remember, they are the party of science, right? We are the science. I am the science, says Dr. Fauci. So if they are the science and if climate change is to blame and they know all about it, they're so much smarter than the rest of us out here in flyover country, out here in Jefferson City, Missouri, y'all, just with my slow rural internet, we just don't know anything. Well, we're too stupid to recognize that it's climate change is the reason for the fires, right, y'all? We're just too backwards and too stupid to know what's good for you. So shut up and sit down. It's climate change, bitches. No, it's not climate change. But the climate change factor, if they were so intelligent and so brilliant and so smart, so much smarter than all of us, don't you think that they could have then said, okay, well, let's come up with a disaster mitigation protocol. If climate change is real and it's going to kill all of us, which of course, that's why it used to be global warming, but now it's climate change, right? Sometimes they use the terms interchangeably and you can catch them on that. But it's just like, communism and socialism. These words, we're like liberalism. Right? We don't want to be called that anymore, right? We got to change the terms. It's not quite so popular. Maybe it's time for libertarians to do the same. Maybe we need a little magical switcheroo of our own. I mean, I'm a libertarian, but when I think libertarian these days, I think kind of retarded. What about you? Love to hear your thoughts. You can send me a text at 573-319-1586. The text lines are open, and you can text me anytime, night or day, at 573-319-1586. So that phone line, if you're listening to us later on the audio podcast, send us a text at 573-319-1586. Sure. Somebody sent me to me. Somebody sent me a message. The problem with my website. Oh, no, that makes me really sad because I was really excited to show you guys the tea. I've been having a little bit of problems with shipping not available errors that I'm getting to my Shopify store. I know people really have been, some people have been successfully able to order the tea. Some people have not. I don't know. Go to forlibertyshop.com this morning. Give it a try for me, guys. Buy some tea. Boston Harbor Black, Earl Grey, Mango Manifesto. I've had 2 people contact me to say that, it doesn't ship to Colorado or it doesn't ship to Ohio. And then I have other people buying it and it's just fine. So head over to forlibertyshop.com. Give my store a test this morning. And if it accidentally does work, I promise you it's not a trick, then enjoy the delicious tea over at forlibertyshop.com and help to unlock the bonus content. You will unlock the bonus content. That's the grift. That's the grift right there, the grift shop. Robbie Thurman says, I am not a robot. I enjoy human activities like consuming oxygen and blankety blank with females. Oh my God. He really took it seriously when we said,
wake up, you sexy bitch. It's time to sin.
But not everything on this show is highly offensive.
I hate immigrants, gays, the crippled. God, I really hate the crippled. I can't stand unions.
Stop.
Cops, old ladies.
Sorry, guys. Anyways, welcome to the Wake Up America show where everything is on the table. There are no sacred cows. We offend pretty much absolutely everyone. So if you're the type of person who kind of gets off on pain and having your worldview questioned and sitting down in the morning first thing and like having an existential crisis, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. No, it's not all about confirming our biases here. We like to think for ourselves, think outside the box, and expand our minds, right? Not with ayahuasca, but with knowledge, right? Kermode Bear says, the chai is very good, by the way. There we go. Kim McCurry says, what would we call libertarians? Sorry, a little behind on the podcast. We'll catch up at commercial. Well, Kim McCurry, you're going to have to catch up later because commercials ain't coming anytime soon. We're glad to have you here, though. CO Day, I'm sorry to hear about your businesses that were lost out in Florida. I hope that things will improve for you and that you are not too negatively affected by it. Let's talk about what it means to be a man. The crisis of masculinity in this country has reached a fever pitch, a conversation which has now reached the commanding heights of the global economy. Mark Zuckerberg, one of the world's richest men, has undergone a dramatic transformation, not just in his views, but in his appearance as well. And we're going to play the clips here from Joe Rogan, and I want to see if you guys see what I'm seeing with these clips. This is Mark Zuckerberg talking about masculine friendships and masculine energy. And I'm just going to let this clip play for about a minute before I cut it off and tell you what the vibes that I'm getting from Mark Zuckerberg here. And I'm just curious, and drop your comments in the chat. I want you to tell me sort of how you guys feel, the vibes that you're getting from this interview. Okay, here, take a listen.
For me, it's just I think a lot of the corporate world is like pretty.
Just 1 second, guys. Sorry, we're having a little internet slowdowns.
Culturally neutered, and
he's talking about the corporate world here.
And I just think like having.
All right, I'm going to take a big risk here, guys. Hold on just 1 second. I'm going to try and refresh, see if I can't get a fresh connection here. Just a moment, please. Sorry, guys. Please stand by here.
Just I think a lot of the corporate world is like pretty culturally neutered, and I just think like having. You know, I grew up, I have 3 sisters, no brothers. I have 3 daughters, no sons. So I'm like surrounded by girls and women like my whole life.
I apologize for the internet situation, guys.
I think
let's pause for just a moment here. So I wanted at least another 30 seconds of this. But there's a lot to be said about masculinity on an intellectual level, and someone can say the right things, but not necessarily be able to exhibit the traits or to sort of conquer that which they know to be conquerable. I'm always reading this Sun Tzu book my brother got for me for Christmas, just sitting on my nightstand. I just kind of open it, flip it open. And sometimes I use artificial intelligence. I'll have ChatGPT open and I'll ask ChatGPT to sort of translate what Sun Tzu was saying. And in one area of the book, he talks about you can intellectually know how to conquer without being able to do it. Knowing the tools and having the facets of masculinity, understanding on an intellectual level what masculinity is, won't necessarily make you masculine. In other words, you can intellectualize and be able to conceptualize, and some people are good at faking it until they make it. But masculinity is something that exists more than the meta level. That's meta level. That's actually that joke is quite meta. What do you mean? I thought that was a funny joke. Shut up, bitch. Robbie says it's not your internet. Zuck is buffering. Come on, internet.
Surrounded by girls and women like my whole life, and it's like, so I think
all Let's pause here for just a moment, guys. All right, guys, give me just 1 second. I'm going to see if I can't troubleshoot it real quick, and I will come right back to this, okay? Please be patient. Okay, we're back. Well, I mean, it shouldn't be me. I'm seeing pretty good speed here on the internet, so let's see if we can get this rocking.
I don't know. There's just something, the kind of masculine energy, I think, is good. And obviously,
maybe it's X that's having this problem here. So if this doesn't start playing here in about 15 seconds, guys, then I'm just going to switch over to just me talking.
Energy, I think, is good. And obviously, society has plenty of that, but I think corporate culture was really like trying to get away from it. And I do think that there's just something, it's like, I don't know, all these forms of energy are good, and I think having a culture that like celebrates the aggression a bit more has its own merits that are really positive.
Yeah, I think what Mark Zuckerberg is realizing, sorry about the internet, guys. I think it shows the internet speed test is fine, so maybe it's just X this morning. Interesting that he faces so much competition, and he has started to mimic Elon Musk so much in so many ways, not just from a business perspective, but kind of from a masculinity perspective. And I think what Mark Zuckerberg is probably realizing in that how he has created his business around this very feminine model out at Menlo Park in California is that now that he faces real serious competition, and that does anybody remember the headsets that people wore like 9 months ago, and the metaverse and the billions of dollars that Mark Zuckerberg spent and just was wiped away of value on his books, and they had to abandon this project, this completely failed project? I mean, he's facing real serious pressure from shareholders to ensure that the profits of Facebook or Meta and Instagram continue to rise quarterly. And if everybody goes to X instead of using his platform Threads, and no one is using Threads, and I mean, trust me, lots of people still don't trust Mark Zuckerberg, and I think for good reasons, which we'll discuss here in just a moment. But I think that, not just in an intellectual level, intellectual capacity to understand masculinity, but to really display it. Now, like, listen, I mean, you could criticize me. Every guy's masculinity, the interesting thing about being a man, ladies, if you're not familiar, is that the way that men police other men's masculinity is obviously different than from how women police men's masculinity. But it's an interesting concept because it's really not something that women tend to have to deal with. There used to be a culture in this country that would enforce femininity, and you would quite frequently see a tomboy, for example, and people would maybe throw some innocent jibes at her, right? Oh, maybe she's a lesbian, maybe she's a dyke, right? She's not interested in guys. Nowadays, those people unfortunately get indoctrinated into the transgender cult. But nonetheless, there used to be a policing of femininity in this country as well, right? Be more feminine, smile more, baby, all that kind of stuff that women used the power of feminism and through the institutions that they captured, and through seats in government and in power and on corporate boards. They enforced these feminine views that liberated women from stereotypes and from the policing of their femininity to a certain extent. Now, women, of course, there will always be this in the battle of the sexes, and then there's intersex competition and then intrasex competition. Those dynamics will always exist, and they still do. Now they just kind of, because we've sort of outlawed it to some extent, like rather than liberalize female sexuality in a sense, we've also the left has they went from liberalizing female sexuality, right, where it was like, we're beautiful, like, it's fine to like show off your body and all that stuff, free the nipple, all this stuff, to now a sort of repressive view of you shall not be feminine and thin and pretty and traditionally beautiful, and also white, right? And a lot of white women, catch on to that. But in regards to the policing of masculinity, right, and how we sort of like how men see other men and what men determine, is truly masculine. This can vary from culture to culture. And I could really only speak to the United States. Kind of fascinating that Vivek Ramaswamy sort of, in a way, accidentally stepped in it, weighed into this debate when he was talking about the Saved by the Bell characters. Remember, he says that a culture that elevates Zuck over Screech is one that isn't going to produce the best engineers. And it was a big sideswipe that really angered a lot of Americans, because in some ways it sort of strikes at the heart of like the traditional American view of masculinity, which is very much rooted in, what I would say is like the peak American masculinity stereotype would be the 1980s professional wrestler, Hulk Hogan, or Top Gun movies, things like that, even though there's still a homoerotic aspect to those things, but like you just don't want to have a conversation with those American males about that kind of thing, because there is anti-intellectualism here in the United States. There is the problem that I see in the United States is that we have divorced our philosophers and our fighters. We have divorced these concepts in such a way where American masculinity is kind of a stupid masculinity in a sense, right? So it's like I was very much turned off as a young man. I was a bookish young man, and so I was very turned off by the 1980s stereotype of like the kind of Jerry Lawler pro wrestler stuff. It's just not for me. It's never been for me, right? I'm not like stimulated by that form of entertainment. And it is kind of homoerotic, right? I remember doing wrestling in high school and putting on the leotard and looking at myself in the mirror and thinking like, and I'm in like the plays in school and I'm like, and these guys think I'm gay, right? So it's kind of like there is this kind of like, it's a brutish form of masculinity that's existed. And there's a tension, but there's a conflict that has existed. And it's not to say that we aren't starting to achieve some synergy now, because I think we are. And I think Mark Zuckerberg he is that bookish nerd who is, morphing into that more traditional American masculinity. But what it seems like to me is that this is PR, right? This is public relations more than anything. And it feels sometimes a little bit when he's talking about these things that he's sort of reading from a script. He's not necessarily being deliberately offensive. The feminists are mad. Oh my God, the feminists are mad. I'm seeing this morning over on X, for example, that they're calling him out for, he's always been a woman hater, right? To me, it seems as if it's very much an act. Which isn't to say that, he probably couldn't, maybe kick my ass in an MMA fight. I don't know. Maybe he could, maybe he couldn't. But, I underwent a similar journey in the sense that when I had my bookish sensibilities, if you will. I had my bookish sensibilities, but then in my mid-20s, when I joined martial arts, which is a big part of the conversation here with Mark Zuckerberg, when I joined martial arts, I felt as if like, that physical aspect of masculinity, which I really think is an inextricable part of masculinity because of the role that our hormones play in defining who we are. And, I've heard some people say that they think that after Mark Zuckerberg had a knee injury, that he may have been using testosterone replacement therapy. So there are a lot of men who are chemically juicing and waking up to a physical side of themselves that maybe they had never experienced before, or maybe a lot of men lose their testosterone very early in life. I see men, unfortunately, who lose their hair at a very young age. And of course, in terms of the Joni Rankin over the chat says, Rambo, Die Hard, professional wrestling all became a tongue-in-cheek form of masculine. Yes, it did, right? At the time, though, it really was very masculine in many ways, right? I mean, Die Hard, the thing about John McClane is that he wasn't stupid, right? I mean, and Rambo they weren't necessarily stupid, but professional wrestling was obviously just kind of like, it was soap opera, right? It's sweaty men in leotards doing soap opera, right? But, you know, it's not the kind of thing that you sit down and you come out 2 hours later and you're like, wow, really, you know, reconsidering how I think about things, you know, after that, right? It's pure dumb entertainment, and that's fine. You know, everybody has a form of pure dumb entertainment, right? Like I have my own stupid forms of entertainment that are perfectly, you know, on the table to be criticized. But in terms of Zuckerberg, I would have to say that the martial arts is the one thing that is. It is the thing that if you are able to get to a certain level, and it doesn't have to be a black belt, right? Everybody lionizes the black belt. The black belt is everything, right? But the black belt, it's literally just a belt around your waist. It doesn't mean anything. What matters is the training process that you undergo. What matters is, will you show up to train over and over again? And the lessons that you learn while you're in a martial arts school are the kinds of lessons that if you commit to them and if you undergo the tests that will grow you to the next level, and if you're not in a McDojo, for example, then, and if you stick with it and you stand the test of time, you will learn important life lessons that will make you a man. And Mark Zuckerberg, I don't think he's there yet. As a matter of fact, just from listening to what he's talking about here, I think obviously he's being trepidatious. He's being very careful about what he's saying in order to probably try not to offend certain people. But in other ways, you know, he's shown that he is willing to offend some simply by taking actions like we're reading today about removing tampons from the men's bathroom. I mean, these are the kinds of things that if you had suggested he had done this a year ago, you would have been quite shocked. And this is why it was so important for Donald Trump to win the election, because I'm of the opinion that many people are that if Kamala Harris had won the election, that Mark Zuckerberg would not be talking like this. There would still be tampons in the restroom. And you know, we have a lot of conversations, especially in the liberty movement, about politics, whether, you know, politics being downstream of culture. Should libertarians engage in the cultural wars? You know, is that real, or is libertarianism just about what government is doing? And what's interesting is that not only in this scenario is it a question of, is politics downstream from culture, but is culture downstream from politics? And I think that this shows the answer to the Donald Trump election and the about face, the 180 degrees turn that many of these CEOs are making when it comes to removing tampons from bathrooms, environmental, social, governance standards, and diversity, equity, and inclusion in their corporate environments. I mean, the HR ladies at the corporations are just not having a good day today, right? Which makes us very happy. Will Run Riot says that he was calling Trump. It's something that has been kind of coming in recent years. I would say maybe in the last like 2-3 years that he's really started this transition. And, you know, he's done things. Another thing that he did that you could say, you know, a hallmark of masculinity is that he bought up a bunch of land in Hawaii to start beef farms. Right. And I'm sure it will all be very Zen, California, you know, ethically grained, crunchy granola. Right. They're going to read the cows like bedtime stories and things like that when they put them to sleep at night. And they'll like, you know, like bring in a priest to say mass or something before they kill them. I don't know, whatever the lefty crunchy granola trend is, whatever the Menlo Park, you know, bigwigs say. Oh, it's like, oh, okay, yes, you can grow beef, but it has to be done sustainably. And, you know, I just, you know, it's if you're making meat at all, these people in California, they're just not happy with you, right? Because it's the cow farts, obviously, that are causing the climate change and is causing everything to burn down, right, guys? No. No, no, no. How's everybody doing this morning? Good morning. Thank God this show is still working. I'm so glad and thankful to have you here. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, click that like button. We'd love to have you come back and join us every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That is the show's schedule, and we are sticking to it. Is the internet working for everybody out there? I hope so. Drop a comment or send me a text at 573-319-1586. Tommy, can you hear me? Tommy, can you see me? Can you feel me near you? We'd love to hear from you about what's going on over there in your world. If you'd like to help unlock the bonus content today, then do me a Flavor Flav and drop some Rumble rants. Can you bless me with something?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise. Please.
Can you suck it?
Good. Oh my gosh. Don't play that, Austin. They don't like it. It makes people upset. They get offended when you say things like,
I hate immigrants, gays, the crippled. God, I really hate the crippled. I can't stand unions, cops, old ladies.
okay. There you go. You're looking for every single group. You should have said, you forgot to add Jews, Muslims, Christians, black people, women, any minorities. Sign of Jonah says he really enjoyed the Friday show. I'm glad, brother. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's been really great to hang out with you online, Sign of Jonah. I hope that we get to hang out with you in person. You know what the best way to unlock today's bonus content would be? It would be to head to forlibertyshop.com and book yourself a ticket on the AP Liberty Tour Express. We're going to Washington, D.C., baby. Tommy, can you hear me? Can you feel me near you? If you go to our website, forlibertyshop.com, that's forlibertyshop.com. You head over to forlibertyshop.com. At the very top, you'll see our beautiful website, AP's DC Liberty Tour, May 1st through the 3rd. You can book now, and please do so. We do have a limited number of spots available for the tour. I kind of like some people, I think, like have this impression that they're just going to like show up and join us. And it's just going to be like, I really don't want to have to like turn anybody away, especially who are like the insiders, because if there's like a mad rush at the end to get tickets and all that stuff, I will have to like tell people that we can't fit everybody just because I'm only going to be able to take a certain amount of people on the congressional tour. Obviously, like you could take like infinity people for Jefferson City, but I just, it's me and Steffi and we'll have our baby. So like we kind of have to like manage everybody and we will have some help. But at the end of the day, there's just 30 adult DC Liberty Tour people per person. An infinite amount of kids, right? We'll make the kids work. Of course, we want the kids to learn about our country. Funny story about this tour. If you didn't hear, I got deplatformed from a website. I tried to run this tour for you guys on this website called wetravel.com, but they deplatformed me so fast and so hard and said, we're never speaking to you again. That I was just like, okay, Jesus. Okay, well, I'll just put it over on my own website, I guess. So that's probably the smartest way to do it anyway. So if you guys want to meet us in Washington, D.C., if you're planning on being there, get your ticket today. AP's DC Liberty Tour base package. That's one person. If you want to bring a group, I've got a 50% off discount going on for a limited time. AP's DC Liberty Tour base package. For the time being, you can buy one, get one 50% off. Okay, guys? So if you want to take advantage of that deal, go ahead and get it now. And FYI, if you're a monthly subscriber to the Wake Up America show, you get 20% off. So do the math here. 50% off the buy one, get one, and then 20% off that. Okay. So the savings really start to stack if you're a big supporter of the Wake Up America show, as it should, right? You're helping to make the Wake Up America show and the For Liberty Network happen. So you get the big discounts. So go to forlibertyshop.com today. Check out the DC Liberty Tour. Make sure to read the entire description on each of the elements that we have here. See, you want to click on this is the Liberty Tour base package. This is the exclusive private dinner with me, Steffi, and Hazel, and that'll be at Chadwick's in Old Town Alexandria on the water looking across the river from the Capitol. It's absolutely beautiful. And we have one of those available for sale, so snatch it up. And then it gets removed from the site. If you guys want to upgrade your package, we can do a Liberty Tour merch package for $150. You'll get gifted by me a beautiful package gift bag when you get there. Just make your trip really special and fun and exciting. I just think you guys would really love it, right? And then on Friday morning, if you would like to join us, depending on how many people come, right, the venue will change. But if we only have a couple people, for example, that want to join us for the live recording, then that is an optional upgrade. You can actually come and watch the Wake Up America show being streamed live in Alexandria, Virginia, the home of George Washington himself, on the APDC Liberty Tour, May 1st through the 3rd this year, 2025. Get all the details at forlibertyshop.com. If you buy your ticket this morning, then you'll unlock the bonus content. And I think everybody wants to see that bonus content, don't they? Yes, they do. Hey, Mark Zuckerberg, are we getting your internet yet?
And that has been a kind of a positive experience for me. Just like having a thing that I can just like do with my guy friends and like, and it's just like, we just like beat each other a bit. It's good.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. Yeah. Some like it doesn't feel good in the moment when you step on the mat and get beat. And oh my God, especially my early days, did I ever get beat so bad. You get beat so bad and you're walking off there and you're just like bruised and sore. And you're like, but you know what? You walk off that mat and you're like, oh, I'll get him next time. Right. Like, I'm going to learn that move. I'm going to just, I'm going to work on this and all this kind of stuff. And you develop this camaraderie. And, I see a lot of the conversations, especially this next part of this conversation is going to disappoint some of you guys, but just stick with me through this part of this. Okay. But one of the things that I see is this conversation online about Andrew Tate and his role in the masculinity crisis and what he plays. And I was kind of talking a little bit about him, that a healthy society really doesn't need Andrew Tate or produce Andrew Tates, but we are sort of an unhealthy society, I think, at this point in our history. And this conversation about masculinity, it's a big conversation on the religious right, the social conservative right wingers. And I consider myself a member of the right, but I'm not a social conservative, right? I consider myself to be much more of an open-minded, not a religious type, more of a secular humanist, liberty Republican type of person. I believe in the Constitution of the United States, and I'm a nationalist. But I think that unfortunately what has happened and what I've seen over the years is that the church has really taken a very strong leftward turn. Like the institutions of the church, many Catholic churches, of course, but of course they always had that Jesuit tradition. But the Protestant churches have really taken a hard shift towards the left culturally, from what I know, right? Female priests and preachers and different things like that. And, you don't want to get too much into the intricacies of religion, but more and more people are kind of walking away. More and more people are kind of walking away from the church and walking away from religion. And it's a challenge to then have conversations with these men about how to grow. That doesn't necessarily involve a conversation around mysticism, right? So if you're more secular, which more and more people are these days, right? How do we sort of avoid the men falling into perhaps the Andrew Tate trap, if you will, the trap of becoming a caricature of masculinity, which I think Andrew Tate in many ways is playing a character rather than sort of like living a truly examined life to an extent. It's much more of a mask that he puts on for all of us because nobody can really kind of sustain that. There's somebody who's the background in the arts, right? I know I can tell kind of when someone like is acting, right? You can see Andrew Tate dropping the act frequently, where it happens where he's not that kind of like, oh, you're yelling in your face, like you're an idiot, your daughter's ugly, this is haram, like she's a whore, she's a slut, right? That's it's a shtick. In many ways, that's not really true masculinity. And when you're watching Mark Zuckerberg, for example, he's kind of coming from the opposite direction. He's faking it until he's making it, but he is also like genuinely trying to undergo, a transformation. It feels as if he is genuinely trying to sort of blend in with us human beings, if you will, right? But the problem, of course, is that, many would have you believe that just if you just go to church, that is going to make you more of a man. And sorry, but more and more there are men out there, or I guess, not quite men in the sense that like they haven't achieved what we would call that zenith, perhaps, of what we're working towards, what we're building towards. But they're boys too, men, right? They're boys that want to grow up and be men, even if if many of them have Peter Pan syndrome, and maybe they're close to middle age, or some of them are middle age, and they're having problems, finding wives and girlfriends and becoming good husbands and fathers and leaders in their community. So just going to church is not going to solve the problem. If the church is also demonizing their masculinity, if their church is also hyper-feminized and it's led by women and it's very, and it really doesn't reflect a masculinity that will be fulfilling for these men to transition into the types of healthy, masculine adults who can be the patriarchs and the leaders of society, and the next generation is truly struggling. And, again, this is where this conversation starts to get prickly, right? And sort of my departure from traditional religious morality on this concept. But I mean, you have Generation Z. I saw a chart the other day and I can't remember the numbers on it. I apologize. And excuse me for having to just sort of like talk about this on the fly, but please, for the sake of this conversation, accept this underlying assumption that Generation Z, by and large, are virgins. And in going back to the 1980s, if you remember, when we had like the zenith of masculinity, like I was discussing earlier, in the 80s it was the zenith of masculinity, remember, we shamed men for being virgins to a large extent in the 1980s. We shamed young men for not being with a woman, right? It was every 1980s movie, Risky Business, every big film, by John Hughes was about that one single event, right? That all young people were working towards and attaining, and the night, will he, won't he, right? American Pie, right? In the 1990s, right? It was still that culture, right? Very masculine, right? You still had beautiful girls in Hollywood. And so that culture, that 1980s masculine archetype, bullied other men and policed other men's sexuality into telling them that they need to, in order to be a man, they have to cross this line, right? Which I'm putting it as delicately as possible for people who are still, rolling out of bed and looking for a good conversation, but not necessarily the explicit details of such. But you guys can see where I'm, the path that I'm leading you down here on this, right? So my thinking on this is that, in the 1980s, if you want to go back to that masculine archetype of the 1980s, right? I know that people are like, oh, well, you want to pick and choose, right? So you want to have that masculine archetype, but they're virgins? Right? And the Zoomer generation, trust me, the Zoomer generation, for many of them, they're not virgins out of some religious decision, although many are, right? It is quite popular, especially even strangely on the extreme right, where you have like Nick Fuentes, for example, is always bragging about how he's a virgin and he's waiting for marriage. And that, that's kind of like, the religious right is going to applaud that, right? They're going to say, okay, well, yeah, that's good. That's very moral and that's very upstanding. Okay, but the rest of us are living out here in the real world, right? The rest of us would like to copulate with a woman, right? Like with most men, by the time they reach manhood, right, we do see as a part of our masculinity, right, the ability to bag and tag them, if you will, right? Like a man, part of manhood and masculinity is being able to handle and deal with a woman. And you do not. Men are like masculine men who are good with women are not born. They are made, right? Maybe I need to start a dojo for that, right? But at the end of the day, like a rite of passage for a man is through women. It's not just through other men. We can go to the gym all day and experience masculinity from the perspective of how Mark Zuckerberg has described it in terms of getting onto the mat and learning MMA and row, and we're all men. And yes, that is absolutely part of it. And yes, I love my martial arts community and being a part of being able to teach karate here at the Jefferson City Parks and Rec is kind of a dream come true for me, right? It's a culmination of a lifetime of hard work and investment that I've made into the martial arts. But part of traditional masculinity is not just about conquering yourself and not just about conquering other men and not just about asserting yourself in the dominance hierarchy that men have alone and as men, but it is also about being able to handle and deal with a woman's shit. Well, Joni Rankin says, so if a primarily secular society doesn't embrace a religious community, what does he do for his family? Well, I mean, your family really is your community then, to an extent, right? So your family is your community. And this is what I was trying to the point I was working my way towards, is that if you are not a religious type, then I think a martial arts school would be good for you. What's funny is that my mother, this is like the thing that she feared the most, right? Because she didn't want me joining martial arts as a kid, which was like such a huge mistake, right? And it was because of the religious aspect of it, right? She just thought it was, heathen. And she was right. But people who aren't going to be a part of those religious communities because they are highly feminized, right? Because they are anti-masculine, many of them, right? Not all of them. Some religious communities are still very hyper-masculine. And if it's something that gives you meaning and joy and pleasure in life, and it's part of like that passage, that rite of passage for you to get to adulthood and to find a community that bolsters your spirits, and it brings you, great joy in life. I certainly won't discount that. Absolutely not. But what I'm trying to speak to specifically are secular young men who, could be swayed one way or another to join, more radical communities that would provide them with the kinds of boost that they would need in terms of being a man, but would also inject them with a toxic dose of poison as well. There is a toxicity as well within masculinity that does exist that we have to address, that I think is unproductive and ultimately self-destructive as well. And you see very often too that it's like the men who are self-deleting. It's not like with Japan where you have kind of the hikikomori, where you have men who are living secluded, no contact with the outside world other than through the internet, right? Is where these are kind of like those soft beta males. But like what you will frequently see in American society is that it is the alpha males who will self-delete, right? Many of them is because maybe their time in the military, right? They're suffering through post-traumatic stress disorder, or the what society is, the pains that they struggle in society. So we have a strange toxicity in American culture. They call, what feminism would call toxic masculinity, I would just call masculinity, or masculinity at all. They think it's all toxic because, again, they have these matriarchal, gynocentric worldviews. But there is a healthy masculinity that exists and that we can encourage and support, that will lead to building healthy communities. And for my part, it better not be intrinsically tied in with religion, because if so, we're in trouble, because the amount of people not identifying with any religion is slowly increasing year over year. So if we want to avoid having these young men fall into traps, ideological traps, fall into toxic worldviews that want to take advantage of them and exploit them, then we need to have conversations about what are healthy alternatives and pathways for men to be able to get involved with a community that will encourage them and their health. And we also need to talk about, how we are going to be able to encourage men. If we're concerned about the lack of procreation in this country, if we're concerned about replacement, and if we're concerned about immigrants not just turking our gerbs but replacing us here in our country, right? If we really want to ensure the survival of the American species, of the American people, then people are going to have sex. And if people are going to have sex, then men have got to be able to become men, own their shit, and handle a woman's shit. Would you guys like to go hear from John Miltimore about perhaps something else? Yes, something else? Okay. We'll be right back, guys. I'm going to talk to John Miltimore about why State Farm insurance, like a good neighbor, is not there. But it's not their fault. It's something else. Maybe it's that climate change. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
hazardous materials while serving in the military and have an illness or condition as a result?
If so, you may be eligible for VA benefits and services.
Whether you need health care or want to file a disability compensation claim related to military exposures, VA is here to help.
Visit va.gov/military-exposures to learn more and apply today.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
If I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors, what would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. This is the For Liberty Network. What's the For Liberty Network? Well, it's me, Liberty Tonight, Culturama, 1, 2, 3 live shows. I'm Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central. So I do the morning shift, and then the ladies and gentlemen do the night shift. So from 7 to 11, Tuesdays and Thursdays, you'll find Culturama right here at forlibertynetwork.com. Thursday nights, the boys from Liberty Tonight take over. The benevolent dictator, the king of all libertarians. Don't worry, he is a kindly monarch. You can find him live, as well as Brian Piotr directly after Culturama. So if you want to watch all 3 shows and you're like, I need to find out more about the For Liberty Network, just visit forlibertynetwork.com. And while you're there, do a little shoppy and visit forlibertyshop.com. Join us in the capitalistic grift, the grift shop. You can get delicious teas now. Our new For Liberty collection is available at forlibertyshop.com. Boy, that branding just all sticks together, man. If I wasn't into politics, I should have probably been in business. Joining us now right now is another man who probably would have done just fine in business, but he decided to devote his life to try and make your life a little bit more free. His name's John Miltimore from the American Institute of Economic Research. Good morning, John Miltimore.
Hey, good morning, AP. How you doing?
All right. What does it mean to be a man, and what can somebody do who wants to grow up? Let's say maybe they're like a millennial who wants to, they feel like they've got Peter Pan syndrome. They don't have a wife. They don't have a girlfriend, right? What would you do? How would you define a man, and how do you become a man, John?
Boy, that's quite the question. I would say it starts with taking responsibility for your life. Like that sounds maybe like Pollyannish.
Wait a minute, but then I can't blame the Jews for me being such a loser. Wait a minute.
You can't blame anyone, and that's it. Like, and this isn't just particular to men. It's everyone in the culture today that sort of wants to pass the buck, point the finger elsewhere. Like, to me, that's, a man takes responsibility. Sometimes it's your fault, sometimes not. You just have to step in there and do it anyway. To me, that's a I don't know if I'd even qualify that as a masculine, quality. Mm-hmm. I think it is, and I'd like to see more young men do it. I'll tell you, I'm a husband, I'm a father. If I see people not taking responsibility in my own household, my kids, it drives me crazy. I'm like, no, stop blaming your sister for that. Stop blaming your brother for that. You did it. Own that and do better next time. So I think it starts there. And you'll find, I don't know, like, I think your life gets better when you actually embrace that. Like in my 20s, I was kind of a wreck as a young man. I wouldn't say a wreck. I just like to kind of, float around. I was working on my career. I was living all over the place. And, I didn't want responsibility. Like things like a wife and kids were something I was kind of terrified of at the time. But once you actually settle into that role, I find life gets a lot better.
Yeah, no, same here. I had a blast being a bachelor and being on the East Coast and, going on lots of crazy adventures. But I feel as if, while I miss some of like the cultural aspects, like I miss being able to go to like a lecture at the Cato Institute and whenever I feel like it or something like that. And I miss being able to be more social because like God knows we're out here in the boonies. Like the value and the sort of the warmth and the togetherness and the community that I feel here in Jefferson City, especially, being a family man now, is definitely much better, right? Maybe becoming a man is like growing up and realizing that you can't have it all, right? You just have to, there really are trade-offs in life, just like capitalism, and you have to accept them and make the best of them.
No, that's right. I wouldn't change. But my 20s, it was kind of fun to live a more free-spirited life. Sometimes you got to get a little of that out of your system. Like I think sometimes when people, get married and when they're 21 years old, they find themselves doing that when they're 35. And I would recommend against that. Mm-hmm. Like if you have some of that to get out of your system, you want to see the world, doesn't mean that you stop living and having fun. And hopefully you have a partner that you do that with, that you can take vacation, see the world. But you don't want to find yourself at 35 or 40 and having regrets about where you are and wishing you were single. That ends up kind of bad. But I do think it's cool that this is kind of coming back. It's we're hearing this trad thing, but it seems like having kids is kind of cool again. Like we hear, we see it all over. Like even people I wouldn't expect, people that I don't want to say influencers, but people in our space that might be more progressive, like they're leaning into this family and kid thing in ways that's kind of surprising to me. But I like that. But I would just say anybody doing that, like, be ready for the responsibility.
No, for sure. Yeah, that you have to be ready for the responsibility, because the amount of pressure that you feel to try and manage it, it's like, it's managing a family effectively is kind of like managing a business to some extent, right? You kind of have to have, make sure you've got enough inventory. Do we have enough diapers and wet wipes, et cetera? Like, are we stocking up? Are we unstocked, right? And a trip to the grocery store is like, going to the stock market in some ways. You're going to spend a lot of money,
It is, and you don't ever get a vacation from it. I think entrepreneurs will tell you that, right? Like, unlike being even a CEO who gets to take vacations, if you're the entrepreneur of a business, it doesn't really work that way. That's the way it is, like being, leading a family. It never stops, and there are trade-offs. Like, sometimes you can't be there for a kid's birthday or something. Like, those things are tough. Like, you might have something to do. But I realized a long time ago, I love my career. I like all these things, but know your priorities. And for me, like, being a good husband and dad is kind of my biggest responsibility in life, and that's when I work the hardest at.
Good for you, dude. John, we're going to switch now to another topic here. The real reason State Farm won't sell home insurance in California anymore. You write, while climate change might be in the zeitgeist, there are better explanations for State Farm's exit. Yeah, John, the lefty politicians out in California are howling about climate change. Do you think that's maybe to cover up for their incompetence?
Oh, it's wild. Like, no pun intended. I started seeing all of these, stories the last few days about how people, we're looking at this massive, wildfire destruction that pales. If you look back, Austin, like the most severe damage was 2017. There was about 14, maybe $15 billion in property damage. We're looking at estimates now. $150 billion is the latest estimate. So that's about 10 times what we saw in 2017. This is huge. It's a disaster. And what's worse is a lot of these homes are not insured now. And why that is this story, which I published last year. I just kind of had an update on my Substack, and it's really going bonkers. So State Farm announced last year they're not going to offer insurance, new policies, new homeowners insurance in California anymore. And it's because of the price controls in California. They're not allowing them to reinsure to calculate with the risk, because the risk is going up. Premium price has to go up, and in California, lawmakers are like, sorry, we're not going to allow that to happen. So State Farm's like, well, we're going to take a huge bath on this. We can't take on all that risk and not get paid more. So they just said, sorry, we're not going to issue new policies. And so what we're seeing in the news now is like this, people are terrified. They're trying to blame the insurance companies. But if you go back, like, they were the ones, like, they're saying, look, these are high risk areas. We'll offer plans, but we need to be able to price for them. And lawmakers said no. And so we're going to have even a bigger disaster because of that. And it's not the insurance company's fault. It's lawmakers who are trying to use price controls and drove them right out of the market. This is the only state in the United States that is doing this. And it's tragic because you have all these homeowners now that we're talking thousands of people whose homes aren't insured.
Why do you think this article got so much attention? Because a lot of people have been sharing it and talking about it, John, and I noted this take on a few other websites, but I see 142 hearts, 22 comments, 40 reposts here on Substack. What is it about your take specifically that you think has caught fire? We've got to be careful with these puns here. Why has this really taken hold and captured the zeitgeist?
I think part of the reason is you have all these lawmakers in California, like Kamala Harris is one of them. Like they're trying to blame the insurance companies for this and saying people were dropped. They weren't dropped. In fact, it's illegal under California law to just drop someone. Now, what you can do is if they're not paying their premiums, you don't get insurance, right? That's just how a market works. And what they can do is, like, if your plan expires, right? You can say, well, we're gonna renew it, but we're going to renew it under these terms. And that's what California is saying. No, you can't do that. And so they're like saying, State Farm said, we're not going to, do business here. And I think other, insurance companies, I think, have been reluctant to offer plans as well. They're saying we need to be able to price for this. They might still be offering new plans, but not reinsuring, these ones that are very high risk. The market's a disaster. There is like a state plan. I think they call it FAIR or something, where people are trying to get insurance, through this. It's horribly underfunded and kind of a mess from what I hear. But it goes back. Policies in California are really the root cause of this. We can say, hey, sorry, climate change. Like, what are we going to do? If this is the case, then the climate change gods are really fickle, because they seem to go after California year after year after year, and no one else. But we know that's not true. We know that wildfires are in other states as well, but the land management is much better. They combat fires in a much better way. In California for decades, fire suppression has been an issue, and people have been talking about it. The New York Times had a massive article about this in 2020 when the wildfires were coming through, and so this isn't some righty lefty thing. They said the land management in California has been really bad. We need to, even Gavin Newsom says we need to burn more, but guess what? They haven't been burning more because people don't like the smoke, and there's bureaucracy and all these things. California is a dysfunctional state, and to shrug our the shoulders and say it's climate change. I think even people in California said, no, we can't do that. We need to fix these problems.
I'm looking at this meme that was shared by my friend Natalie Danileshin, and she was comparing and contrasting these two articles that were written. Their headlines were in The Atlantic. Tell me what you notice about these two different articles, okay? The first article is about the LA fires. It said, how well-intentioned policies fueled LA's fires. Here's a different article. This is from Texas. Texas failed because it did not plan. Oh, interesting. In LA, the well-intentioned policies, they were well-intentioned, but in Texas, they failed because they did not plan. Isn't that interesting how, Texas failed to plan, but Los Angeles, they were well-intentioned.
No, exactly. And, maybe the policies maybe they were well-intentioned. And I never like to call people's intentions but media framing this is part of the problem. It becomes a public choice issue.
I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but why don't you want to call out people's intentions, John?
Because I think it just kind of,
You don't think that any of them you don't think any of them are evil shits?
What I think is that they don't understand the problems they're facing. Right. And I think this is a big problem on the left. They think if their intentions are good, the results will be good. The world doesn't work that way. But I don't think they fully understand the repercussions of their policies either. I think most people, generally speaking, do mean well. But that doesn't excuse the policies.
Yeah, it doesn't excuse the policies, but I really just dislike the dishonesty in this one. And it's completely predictable. Something like this has been predicted for years now. I mean, even I think Donald Trump and Joe Rogan were talking about this during the election. In his interview with Joe Rogan, like the week before the election, they were talking about the potential for danger in California due to their mismanagement of water resources. But
that's exactly right.
Yeah,
and I was going to say, as soon as you point this out, you get excused of playing politics. And look, I'm not trying to say go fire this person immediately or anything. I want people to understand why these policies are failing the people. And when you see $150 billion in damage, when you see, I don't know how many people have died yet. I haven't looked. At least a dozen people died, I think, last I looked. We need to be honest about this. These policies are a disaster. And it goes on to the whole regulatory framework of California. Did you see all the Oregon firefighters that came down to help, and they had to go through all these safety checks? You have everything is burning, and they're saying well, hold on here. We got to make sure that you meet safety protocols, and they're not going to let these Oregon firefighters come down and help. That, to me, that's sort of like somebody's choking or having a heart attack on the ground, and somebody wants to give CPR, but they're like, well, hold on. Are you certified? Okay, do you have your card with you? Oh, you don't? Can you go get your card?
No. They say no. Yeah, I'm a doctor, and you're like, oh, what kind of doctor? They're like, oh, I'm a doctor in gender studies.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother. But it's maddening. You see firefighters coming down to help, and they're being stopped from helping by people who want to check for their emission standards and their safety, protocol, if they're following all this. It's just absolutely crazy.
What do you think about this idea? I don't know if you saw this. This is Bill Ackman. He's kind of a big big investor.
Hedge fund guy. Yeah.
Big hedge fund guy. Here's what he posted on X a couple of days ago. He said, putting out fires before they spread does not seem like a serious technological challenge in a world with SpaceX and Tech, his own companies, right? So Elon Musk and Palmer are lucky. Why don't we start a company that uses satellites, AI, and drone technology to put out fires before they spread? One can envision satellite monitoring, rapid drone investigation, and drone swarm water delivery. The number of drones sent to extinguish the fire and the nature of this extinguishing agent would be a function of the nature and scale of the fire. No human lives will be put at risk. There is no risk of DEI involvement in drone selection. What do you think? I would love to invest. Now, that sounds like a great idea, but I can already see the red tape that's starting to emerge in my eyes, in my mind. I can see, because drones, swarms, numbers of drones, a extinguishing agent, water, foam, dry or wet chemicals. Oh my, no chemicals, right? And no DEI involved. There's going to find a way to screw this up. The problem is that California just can't get out of its own way. You can have all the brilliant capitalistic ideas about how to solve these problems, but Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are not going to let you save people's lives at a profit, John. You can't make a profit saving people's lives. That would be
They'll
immoral.
hate the profit. And let's not forget, who would be the first person to oppose this? The unions.
Yes.
The unions will absolutely be all like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they might not be succeeding, they're not going to let entrepreneurs in sort of like a private sector emerge, to horn in on what they're doing. And maybe I'm wrong. People would say, "Oh, you're being too cynical." Maybe the unions, after this will be. I'll tell you, I do not think they would allow something like that to happen. They have a lot of political clout in California.
Pride.com headline: amid the Palisades fire, Los Angeles' first LGBTQ plus fire chief is proving lesbians get it done. Okay, John, if you were in a fire, I mean, as long as they can get the job done is kind of how I feel. But I mean, I am kind of concerned that the DEI push in our fire departments, I don't know, maybe there is something to being a big masculine burly man, or just a giant, masculine burly bull dyke would be enough. But at the end of the day, I just care about if you can do the job. But in this way, they won't let us save lives and make money by saving lives, but they sure as hell are willing to sacrifice lives as long as it fulfills their racial and gender quotas.
It's crazy. Do you care who shows up to your home, what color they are? Do you care what gender they are? Like the whole idea about this DEI push, people will feel better when they see people of color come to their homes. Really? Do we care? Well, why do we care what color a firefighter is? We should be putting people in those positions who can get the job done. I don't care if it is a lesbian. I don't care who it is. But clearly there is something going on in LA where they're not hiring the best. They're hiring to check boxes. That's the only way you can get this result. And it's a shame. We should just go back to, guess what? If meritocracy, if you can get the job done, we want you in here. But when you start placing all these other, phony criteria in there about what sexual preferences people have or what genders they are, you end up with a fire department that can't put out a fire.
Yeah, crazy stuff. John, I know you got to get a hard out at 8:30. Anything else that you want to share or plug before I let you go, my friend?
No, I'm doing great. Just loving your program. Look forward to listening more and being with you next Monday.
Thanks, John. We appreciate you. Welcome back, and I guess Happy New Year, brother.
Hey, you too, AP. Talk to you later.
This is a real text that I just received from a friend of mine. About the fires. I'm not going to cry because I got torn apart for my last TikTok video where I cried about my house maybe burning down. I'll spare you. She's on a plane and I said, do you want me to go to your house and get stuff out? Like things that you can't replace. I'll go right now, even though the area is evacuated. She wrote back, you can't get in. Topanga's barricaded. The back way we use is being guarded by fire trucks now because some of the neighbors caught a guy setting more fires on the back of our hill. They chased him away. They called 911. I think they caught the guy recently in Woodland Hills trying to put gasoline in sewers. It's happening all over.
It's definitely something that needs to be investigated thoroughly by the authorities here. So, have we determined a source of the original fires? Are we absolutely certain that this entire thing wasn't a planned burn, whether this thing didn't start with arson? Because I've read lots of articles on it and I have not been able to find, confirmable primary sources, to be able to determine what was the original fire started by. I think we can say with fairly convincing reasonableness that some of the fires that have been started by someone else. Some people just want to watch the world burn. This week, I'm going to be writing an article over on human events, and the purpose of it is to talk about why I think it's time for us to bring back the concept of insane asylums in this country. And I know, you're not a real libertarian. Okay, right. But even every reading of Friedrich Hayek that he said is to say that there should be some minimal safety net to account for the criminally insane, right? So, like, where do you put your Batman villains, right? Where do you put the Penguin, the Joker? Where do you put like there's these metaphors for the criminally insane in our society, for the people who really do just want to watch the world burn? We've allowed these people to run rampant on our streets, calling them just homeless people, when in reality, many of them are violent and dangerously mentally ill. I mean, is Jordan Neely, who was choked to death by Daniel Penny on a subway street, is he better off dead than being in an asylum where at least he can receive some care and some treatment and would no longer be a danger to society? I mean, he might still be alive underneath that circumstance or that scenario. And I guess I wonder how you all feel about this concept of getting these criminally insane. I say criminally insane. I'm talking about people who commit crime after crime after crime, and they steal and they rob and they're addicted to every chemical that has ever been created. I wonder what you think about that. Send us a text at 573-319-1586. Again, 573-319-1586. It's nice to see. Look, it's Liz, Dad Bod Baboon, Joni Rankin, Mighty Megatron, Whitey White 14, David Lee, Quest Fanning, and Nelson 65. Good to see you guys. Hey, Kermode, see you there too, as well as Dash over on YouTube. Quest reminds us of the fact that 4% of the population cause half of the problems. Yes, I wonder what your thoughts are on that. Again, you can text the show at 573-319-1586, talking about the Los Angeles fires. We're talking a little bit about climate change and maybe a little bit of this.
Have you ruled out a partner for yourself or any other additional members of the family?
For myself?
Yes, sir.
What would I pardon myself for?
That's what I'm asking.
No, I have no contemplation of pardoning myself for anything. I didn't do anything wrong.
Mr. President,
whoever asked that question, you got some balls, but not these people. Why, internet? Why?
Well, in coordination with our federal and state partners, how we can stop the messages that are going out right now that are not being initiated by a human action, to stop that and then understand how that occurred, so that the tool can still be used for what was identified as like a...
Okay, so sorry for the internet, guys. But here's Mayor Karen Bass, Mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass here. Look at this guy right here. He's doing the so you, the taxpayer, are getting by us. This is right here. I paused that at just the right time. They're talking about the emergency alert system. Los Angeles, they admit that they've lost control of the emergency alert system. The machines are in charge. The humans are struggling to regain control. It's quite dystopian. That reminds me of the meme that was going around over this last weekend on the year that you were 10 years old. This was the meme that everybody was talking about on X. The video or the movie that was the number one movie the year that you were born is the movie that you are going to, is how your year is going to go. So think about back to when you were 10 years old. Sorry about the clips, guys. Think about when you were 10 years old, 2 in the pink. Come on, Dad Bod. When you were 10 years old, what was the number one movie when you were 10? All right. So that, whatever that movie was, is how your year is going to go. For me, well, it was Terminator 2, Rise of the Machines. So it's panic. Everybody panic. Everybody panic. DEI, how's it working out for you out there in Los Angeles?
Let me be clear. The $17 million budget cut and the elimination of our civilian positions like our mechanics did and has and will continue to severely impact our ability to repair our apparatus. So with that, we have over 100 fire apparatus out of service, and having these apparatus in the proper amount of mechanics would have helped. And so it did absolutely negatively impact.
So what is she saying here? So this is that LGBTQIA plus firefighter in Los Angeles. So she's kind of indicting the mayor of Los Angeles in the $17 million budget cut, and what she says is the elimination of their civilian petitions like mechanics. She says, over the last 3 years, this is Mayor Bass's term, we have been clear that the fire department needs help. We can no longer sustain where we are. She's also suggested multiple interim budgets to show, remember, with the government, it's always about more money.
The proper amount of mechanics would have helped. And so it did absolutely negatively impact. I want to also be clear that
John in KC says that when he was 10, the number one movie was The Godfather. That could be good or bad, depending on who you are in the movie. Mine is Rocky. There you go. Rocky, actually a great movie. I'd much rather have Rocky be the number one movie than Terminator 2. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, says Steelbringer. You're a wizard, Harry. And Gaudium Leviosa. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. I hope that you guys are having fun, despite the fact that the internet's a little spotty today. We're sorry about the clips not working wonderfully. Hopefully things will be better tomorrow. We've been talking a little bit this morning about masculinity, Mark Zuckerberg and Andrew Tate. If you missed that conversation, that was the first hour. So please do go back and check that out if you missed it. And if you're just joining us now live, and if you haven't already, click the like button on the feed, and underneath the video you will also see a follow button as well. And if you are not following the Wake Up America show, it's rumble.com/AP for Liberty. So sometimes people are like, oh, is it Wake Up America show or is it AP for Liberty? I'm AP for Liberty. So just make sure you click that follow button so you won't have any problems finding us tomorrow morning again, because it's Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. The Wake Up America show streams live. If you click follow, you'll get an alert on your phone whenever we go live. We'd love to have you be a regular guest, and you can also send us a text and talk to me. You can say, hey, Austin, what's going on? You're in the middle of your workday, you're bored. Hey, Austin, did you see this? Yada, yada, yada. I was tired the next morning. Send me a text, 573-319-1586. Again, 573-319-1586. I can see all of the movies that were number one when you were 10. Robbie Thurman, Barefoot in the Park. I don't think I saw that one. He says, kill me now. Lion King. Oh, that's actually not a bad one. Classic sports. John and KC, when we were 10. Oh, I thought we were born. Not when you're born. E.T. was number one when I was 10. The guy, I guess you're going to have to phone home, John Rail. Spy Kids, when you were 10, was the number one movie. Andy Opperman, Return of the Jedi. That's pretty badass. Quest Fanning says 1989 was a cool year for movies. Batman was number one. That's badass. Michael Keaton is the real Batman in my mind. Joni Rankin says mine is Love Story. Want none of it. That's hilarious. Nelson 65, when his year is you better watch out for a big shark. Maybe Nelson, do you remember the old Saturday Night Live sketch, Candygram? No, I hear you're that land shark out there. You better watch out. I think we need a bigger boat. Dash, when he was 10 years old, the big number one movies were Ghostbusters and The Jerk, Steve Martin. Take your pick. One way, super racist. One way, super scary. Harry Potter, the Sorcerer's Stone. Okay, so mine was The Exorcist. Oh my God, that's that. You don't want to have a year like The Exorcist. So, Top Gun #1 in 1986 when Dad Bod Baboon was 10 years old. There we go. So, Dash, nice to see you over there. Thanks for chatting over on YouTube, despite the fact nobody watches us over there. But you, we're very glad. Looks like the Lectern guy from January 6th just followed me over on X. Hello, Lectern guy. Yes. Here's some masculine models for the right to adopt. Teddy Roosevelt, says my buddy Matt Mahler. Andrew Tate, I'm getting a little bit of heat for my tweet that I posted. I know I still call them tweets, but I will call it X, but Jesus, can we please just call them tweets? This is what I posted that is driving some people insane. We were talking about the crisis of masculinity in this country, and I was playing the Mark Zuckerberg clip a little bit earlier and talking about how martial arts will turn you into something like this man right here. Check this out. Look at this. Whoa, bam, amazing. Nothing gonna ever keep you down. Bow to your sensei. Yes, sir. Yes. I don't know what martial art that is. That must be like a demonstration or something. I don't think that was real. Maybe it was, but if it wasn't, oh yeah, here's this is the cafeteria at Meta headquarters today. Now that Mark Zuckerberg has taken the tampons out of the bathrooms, here we are. This is today. They're all headed back to work, and this is martial arts. Man, I got some stories for you guys, things that went down at Wendy's. Here's my tweet. You tell me if you agree or disagree. I said, Andrew Tate is the poisonous chemotherapy that was the natural result of an overly feminized culture. It is the pendulum swinging in an equal and opposite direction. That doesn't make him good. It only explains why he exists. Healthy societies don't produce or need Andrew Tates. And I said that chemotherapy can kill you too, by the way. Although Livy McKay is not having it. She's not having my opinion. She says, absolutely awful analogy, suggesting someone needs Andrew Tate. She says, I never thought I'd be out here defending chemotherapy by default, but here we are. And I'm kind of confused by this. I'm like, why? What is she's defending chemotherapy? Okay, well, she's awful analogy suggesting someone needs Andrew Tate. But I said healthy societies don't need. So I just kind of looked her up. I don't really know much about Livy, but she's the founder of some cannabis company, right? So she says, I went to her profile, just checked it out. It says confused by cannabis. So I just responded, are you confused by cannabis? I said a healthy society doesn't need him, implying that she might be, well, high. I don't know. I thought it was funny. What do you guys think of my take on that one? And I went on to talk about, and I'll go ahead and close with this, and then I'm going to tell you my story, what happened to me, speaking of altercations and fighting, at Wendy's, of all place, yesterday. But I made a post yesterday, titled Martial Arts as a repository of masculinity, or as a place for men to go and to undergo a transformation. And this is the thread that I posted. Didn't get a lot of traction on X, but I still think it's valuable information. The global crisis of masculinity is real. Aimlessness, lack of discipline, and a loss of purpose plague many men today. Martial arts could be the antidote. This is my belief. Here are 4 ways that training can help you become a better man. Here's me and you can see on my X profile, me and my karate gi. And the first one, Miyamoto Musashi, he was the author of the Book of 5 Rings, legendary Japanese samurai and swordsman, fought many duels, won them all, and used unorthodox methods to win all of his duels. And it's a fascinating character from history, fascinating case. And one of the duels that he won, he allegedly won using a wooden oar, a plank that he carved into a sword, and he carved into the shape of a sword, and he was fighting against a man who used a gigantic long sword style katana, and he beat him with a wooden sword, and it's just it's freaking cool story about how he would draw in his opponents, or make them wait and infuriate them. But one of his key pieces of wisdom that he revealed in his book was that you can only fight the way that you practice. Training builds consistency and discipline. These are my words now. Missing practice means falling behind, not just in skills, but in self-respect. Over time, you learn that showing up matters in life. So, the challenge for my martial arts class here in Jefferson City is that we only meet once a week as part of the Jefferson City Parks and Rec Department, but I can't just train once a week, not only for my own health, but also because I need to keep my skills up so that I can be a good teacher. And so I try and work out and do training at least 3 times a week to ensure that I can be a good leader for my class and stay healthy for myself and for my family. But if you do not show up, if I don't consistently train, not just outside of the Wednesday classes, then I won't be able to deal with conflicts that could arise and almost arose while I was at a fast food place of all places over the weekend. I have a great story for you here that I'll be sharing in just a few minutes. The show is 20 minutes until 9 a.m. And stepping onto the mat, back on the, how martial arts can help you build your masculinity, stepping onto the mat or the ring means confronting fear. It's not just about physical fear of getting hit. It's fear of failure and of embarrassment. If you can conquer that fear, that will teach you courage. Musashi advised, do not fear death, fear the never beginning. So what did he mean by this? You should not fear the end of your life or the end of your struggle. You should fear never really living your life. It's like that old Braveheart quote, I think. All men who lived will die, but not all men who die will have really lived, right? And so going through this process, this journey of martial arts, it will turbocharge your path towards becoming a man, right? And it's not just, again, once you get hit, like that's the thing that I had to teach Steffi in the beginning as we were you use soft foam pads to hit people with in order to teach them how to block things and get them out of the way. And while it's a pool noodle, essentially, you start beginners you hit them with a pool noodle, right? And it's to teach them to knock things out of the way and to build up their reflexes and the response. But even a little pool noodle can kind of hurt, right? If you hit somebody. So I remember in the early days of Stephanie's training with karate, she kind of cried a little bit because she was not used to getting hit, even with a pool noodle. She was still here right now. People are going to say, you're like Andrew Tate, you're beating women. Yes, I admit I hit women with pool noodles in martial arts classes, okay? But in conquering that fear, Stephanie has changed. She is a changed woman. Martial arts has given her it can give women. This isn't just about men, of course. Obviously women are not trying to go through the path of becoming a man unless it's, that situation which we will avoid at this moment, or to avoid that going down a rabbit hole. But to suggest that there is a path, right? Most of the martial arts, especially the Japanese martial arts, will have the word do after them, D-O, and that really means the path. So whenever you hear the word karate, if they're being very formal, they might say karate do, right? Or you say, if you hear judo, right? So kendo, so do, karate do, judo, kendo. The do means the path. So karate means, it used to mean Chinese hand because the art originated in China. But the Japanese, in order to make it more Japanese, changed it to open hand, right? Open palm. So karate means the open-handed way. So it's a path and it's a journey. It's not about the destination. It's not about the black belt. Some people go in, they get a black belt as quickly as they can, and then they walk out and they never go back, right? But, maybe, 2 years journey is enough for some people and they leave it, right? I understand it's not for everyone. But for me, it has become a lifestyle. It has become a part of my path. And with me, martial arts goes with me wherever I go. And I've taught myself and trained in tiny little studios and gigantic dojos, and I've had competition and plenty of fights and some altercations on the street and some at fast food restaurants, which again I will get to in just a few minutes. But I'd like to go through these concepts here in martial arts. This concept of bowing. Right. One of the things that I think is really important about the traditional martial arts and why I prefer it, to like mixed martial arts or things, is because despite the fact that I think mixed martial arts can be very effective as self-defense, and it has a lot of advantages over karate or traditional martial arts in a way, right? Because it's the martial arts, but they're all mixed together in some extent. I love the respect culture of traditional martial arts. And that's definitely one of the things that attracted me to it. And one of the things that I think men lack is respect. And the question of respect, and when we get to the Wendy story, I think we'll come in there, when I ask you the question, am I the asshole in this situation? Right? To me, respect is something that you give deference to everybody, but it's earned. It's not necessarily like, just given, right? When you have to give respect to get respect, right? So, in the class, and we have a whole hierarchy, of course, of respect, like that if someone is a higher belt level or someone is the sensei, they have certain levels of respect and ways that you're supposed to address people that are your elders and your superiors, which will come in handy in the discussion that we'll have, which will be a demerit in my column when I tell you about the altercation at Wendy's over the weekend in just a moment. But the simple act of bowing, the simple act of a bow to another person, right? A lowering of your head, in a sense, it's very similar to a handshake in many ways, without actually pressing the flesh or making contact or sharing somebody's cold. You can offer someone respect just by simply looking them in the eyes and bowing. And I find something very attractive to that. I wish that there was a sort of, to some extent, I mean, I think that because of our American culture, because we are so Republican, small r Republican, not in the terms of the party, but in the terms of our views, we look at bowing as something that you do to kings, right? That you do to, and there is a certain there is a caste element to it from Asian cultures, but the way that I sort of see it is it's not necessarily egalitarian as much as it is kind of like just a simple respect for another human being. Right? And showing them that respect by bowing. So it's because it's not about building up your egos. It's about building up respect for yourself and others, because that person has taken a chance and gone out, and they are giving you a chance to learn. You're giving your partner respect because they're giving you a chance, an opportunity, taking a risk on you to teach you something that you might not have learned. The discipline and the respect were the very best parts, says Kermode Bear. And in here I talk about, and I try and be a good mentor to people online. So one of the things that I offer is that I will, consult with anybody for free that is interested in taking martial arts or finding a good martial arts studio for them or for yourself or maybe even your family. And I gave a brief overview of some of the three kind of most popular martial arts that you will find. These are the more traditional martial arts. MMA schools are very popular as well. And I can say that some of them might be great schools. Maybe that will be right for you to take mixed martial arts. But if you're interested in things that tend to be more traditional, but still be a good workout and build a good community and get the respect aspect of it and some traditions, then typically most metropolitan areas will have one of the three, if not all three. And the one that most people that come to mind, of course, is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And now it's so popular that there's almost one in every town. So I would say consider Jiu-Jitsu, absolutely. Muay Thai, known as the art of 8 limbs, it builds striking skills with fists, elbows, knees, and shins. Muay Thai it's pretty brutal. It's the kind of thing that you really want to get into, if you really have a high tolerance for pain, because Muay Thai will break you. In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, absolutely will as well. So noting that Muay Thai is a striking art and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a grappling art, If you know Muay Thai and you know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, well, you are a weapon for sure. And karate, which is what I practice, the traditional karate, the Okinawan and Japanese styles, traditional and disciplined. It develops speed, precision, and mental strength. So karate is more for those people who do want to challenge, who do want to get into a ring and do kumite, but you're likely to find that not every school is going to kick the absolute crap out of you. Which it might not be for everyone. Some people, they want to learn a traditional martial art. They want to do the meditations and they want to hit the bag and, learn some moves and all that stuff, but they don't necessarily want to get their face knocked in every single night, which is what Muay Thai will bring you. You will be going home with bruises every night, where karate may or may not have that, depending on the type of school and style that you study. So if you're interested in any of these or perhaps other styles of martial arts, and if you're curious, if you want to have me help you evaluate different schools and styles and help you find one that's right for you, then I will do that. Like, I won't just tell you take my style and it's the best, or take Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because it's the best. I will help you find something that is good for you and good for your family and good for your mental health, because that's really what I'm hoping to try and help you guys with. A student of mine once told me that sparring taught him more about controlling his temper than years of therapy. You can't throw a tantrum if you're out of breath, he said. Martial arts don't just toughen your body, they sharpen your mind. Yes, especially if you have a young boy with behavioral problems. Nothing like bringing him to the dojo to get his ass beat around, right? And to teach him respect. He'll learn to respect himself once he goes through the soul-crushing, ego-crushing act of getting your head kicked off. So definitely a big fan of sending young people into karate to teach them this style of respect. Not all our martial arts schools are equal, of course. Beware of McDojos, schools that prioritize profits over skill. Here are 3 red flags. No sparring. Real martial arts schools will test your skills against resisting opponents. If there's no sparring, it's likely fluff. Now, I will say that there is an important caveat to this. And I will say that, if you are not capable of sparring, right? If you have back problems, if you have like some infirmity or something like that, right? I think it's perfectly fine to go to like a Tai Chi school, for example, and just know that if you're going to a school that does not test your skills against resisting opponents, you're not learning self-defense. Okay, you're not really learning to defend yourself against an opponent. But I think it's okay. If you are just trying to get healthy, if you're just trying to be a part of a healthy community, to make friends in your community and to engage with your community, and you want to do something that's good for your body and good for your mind, I think things like martial arts like that don't necessarily spar are okay as long as you go into it with that mindset, knowing what you're getting, right? But be careful of martial arts that don't train you in how to like actually fight someone that you get onto a mat and spar with, and then they tell you, oh no, you just have to learn this secret touch, or it's all about pressure points and you don't actually have to fight anybody. You don't want to do that, right? So it's the sign of Jonah says torn ACL in my knee. Yes, there you go. So you want to look into something like Tai Chi. That would be good for you. Okay. Fast tracking black belts, legit black belts take years, not months. If they promise you quick results, run. High fees for little training. Be wary of schools if they charge exorbitant fees, but then they offer minimal time on the mat. So it's like, we obviously just are very, very inexpensive in Jefferson City, but we only have 1 class a week. Okay. The journey of martial arts is about self-improvement, discipline, and humility. Qualities sorely needed today. Start your journey, but choose your school wisely. And remember, today is a victory over yourself of yesterday, says Miyamoto Musashi. There we go. So let's end the show with a story and a question. Am I the asshole? Yesterday, I took my redheads to Wendy's. I walk into Wendy's, redheads in tow. And as soon as I enter, there's an old man kind of putting his hand in my face, right? Kind of like going like this, right? And warning me about the 6-foot rule. Now, mind you that at the time I was definitely 6 feet or more away, right? I walk in and he goes, "That 6-foot rule, just stay back 6 feet." I've got baby Hazel in my arms here, right? I got over here, I'm holding this heavy car seat. I have no idea what's going on, right? I walk in and like the atmosphere in the restaurant was kind of tense, right? And Stephanie's behind me. I kind of thought he was joking, right? Like the 6 foot rule. I'm like 6 foot rule and stuff like that. And it's like, you know, you don't know where the end of the line is, you know? So I was just kind of like, okay. And then he's like, and then I kind of walk like I'm going to walk by him. And he's like, say 6 feet back. And I was just kind of like, I was just like, mind your business, old man. And so I, you know, take my wife and I'm keep in mind, I'm well clear of the guy, right? I'm definitely like, if not 6 feet, it's like 5.5 feet, right? I have to get around him so I can get away from him, right? So I have my family with him, and I have this like old man kind of yelling at me and like making insane statements to me. So I'm kind of like nervous because I've got my baby in my arm here. I'm like, am I gonna have to like take this guy down or something, like, you know? Because an old man, I know you're like, oh, he's an old man, like, but an old man I've seen old men be just as dangerous as, you know. When I was in New York City, an old woman assaulted a lady in front of me. I stepped in between them. That old lady was very strong and was like throwing. And keep in mind, I was in my 20s, and I was very strong as well. But this lady, when somebody's throwing fists at you, you will be shocked and surprised at like what the power of mental illness. Right? It's like them. You know, who knows what drugs they could be on? But I mean, just being mentally ill alone adds like a +5 to strength and resilience. So anyway, we're there in the Wendy's, and so I'm like, so I say, mind your business, old man. And so I walk around, I'm kind of annoyed, kind of like my blood starts to rise because I'm like, I got a guy yelling in my face. I got my baby in my arms, and I'm like, yo, dude, I'm like I'm in Papa Bear mode here. And so like, I would kill a man who like gets too uppity with me, like right now. Like I've got a baby in my arms and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you know, all my like, it wasn't like fight or flight. It was all fight, right? I started seeing red, started kind of boiling in my eyes. So I walk over to the other side, completely away from him. And mind you, I'm 43 years old, so my eyes are not quite what they used to be. I need to kind of like get a little close so I can see the menu up there, right? So I can decide what we want, right? My wife already knew she needed she needed some chicken nugs and a baked potato for the baby, right? So, you know, you gotta help your baby out. So we go over to the other side to look at the menu, and the old man's over there, and I think it's you know, and there's like kind of a small crowd there, and it's kind of awkward. He must have been yelling at other people before I was there. I have no idea. But then the old man starts yelling at me again, and is saying the line is back over here. The line is over here. The end of the line is over here. I'm like, mind your business, old man. We're trying to read the menu. We'll get behind you, okay? But mind your business. And I said specifically, mind your business, old man. You know, and then this guy behind me, this bearded dwarf delivery guy, I guess he was like DoorDash or something like that, is like, don't talk like that. Don't talk like that to your elders. You got to respect your elders. And then he goes in, and I'm just like, I could feel my blood is just boiling. And I've got a baby in my arms, right? And if it was just me, probably been a very different situation. I got my wife there, I got my child there. So the DoorDash guy goes around and he gets his food, and he's like, you need to go to church. We need to go back to church, right? It's on, you know, it was Sunday, right? I don't know, something like that. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm like, I mean, the rage. Despite all my rage, I'm still just a rat in a Wendy's, right? And I got my family there, and I'm just like, God damn, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I just have so many biting insults. So I just wanted to be like quiet dwarf, right? Something like that, right? Like quiet Gimli. Looking like a fucking bald ass dwarf. Right, and so I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, I'm just like, God damn it. I'm like I have to be the bigger man, just keep my mouth shut, bite my tongue, and just take it. And maybe that's what it means to be a man, is it sometimes for the greater good, for your family, after years of training in martial arts and how to break a man in half with your knee, bend him over and snap that fucking dwarf, you have to just bite your tongue and just take a bite of the shit sandwich. Yeah, no. It's like that quote from Mr. Miyagi. Like, best defense, no be there, right? Just the art of fighting without fighting. Just learning how to keep your mouth shut, don't escalate the situation, But am I the asshole calling him an old man? Mind your business, old man? And that's literally all I said. Mind your business, old man. A 6-foot rule? I don't know. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the show today. If you haven't clicked the like button yet, please do so before you leave. And we will see you again right back here again tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Don't forget to exit through the gift shop, and we'll see you guys right back in tomorrow. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.